Hey, this is Rob, aka ShipDriver71, and it has been a long time, July 2015 in fact, since I last uploaded any flight sim content on YouTube. One of the big reasons for that is, frankly, I got a little frustrated with especially the FSX based sims, P3D, that it is so hard on your system that it gets really expensive to keep up and to try and get really good performance. You can take away all the eye candy like ORBX sceneries and fancy airplanes and weather software, but then you're left with what looks like a 1990s video game. So this chase for a simulator which seemed like it was based on, equipment that doesn't yet exist kind of frustrated me over time. It was a little easier in FSX because there was a piece of software called FS Recorder, which you could not only record your flights, but you could also do non-real-time recording. Even though it didn't have sound, it would be perfectly smooth, and you could really crank the settings and have video content that looked awesome, even if it wasn't really what you were getting in real life. But 2.5 years have passed. I have a new system, at least the computer, the CPU is different. I used to have an Intel 3770K that I had overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz. And I had a 980 GTX graphics card. Well, I still have the 980 GTX, but I do have a Ryzen 7 1800X CPU now. And to be honest, I didn't overclock it, so I'm actually not expecting better performance. But time went by. P3D went to 64-bit with version 4, so I thought I would try it out. Now, because these simulators involve a lot of add-ons, and that's actually part of what makes it great. It also makes it very frustrating. I ended up spending about $400 just updating add-ons to V4, as well as paying the $200 for the sim itself. So just the fact of updating did not come too cheaply. But early impressions of P3D V4, one, anti-aliasing is still a problem with this sim. I just so look forward to the day, if it ever happens, that P3D will have quality anti-aliasing that does not bring your system to its knees. Now, this is a daytime VFR flight in a small airplane, so I'm actually running 4x super sampling anti-aliasing. To be honest, the MSAA just looks horrible, and I can't even stand to see it at that level. But what I did was I turned dynamic lighting off because it's daytime, bumped SSAA up to 4x, and then everything else is kind of standard settings for me with this system. I've got autogen all at normal, although the terrain sliders are pretty high. And now time to head back. I'm lined up southbound on State Route 9, and I'll then turn and head back toward the airfield. One thing I did do, I am trying to minimize tweaking, which was something that I was always dealing with in P3D 2.5 and FSX. That was another part of my frustration, is you're in this constant, tweaking experimentation mode, and I kind of want to minimize that. So I didn't even overclock my CPU. I'm not running NVIDIA Inspector or anything like that. However, I did do one thing for this video. I actually bumped fiber frame time fraction up to 0.4, because with the 4x SSAA I was getting some blurry issues and textures not loading. So I bumped it up a little bit to try and help that, even though I knew it would probably drop my frame rate, which I right now have locked at 24 for this particular scenery and aircraft. And now time to head back. I'm lined up southbound on State Route 9, and I'll then turn and head back toward the airfield. I am running the Active Sky 4. This is over ORBX Pac Northwest and the Harvey Field add-on, and this is the A2A Cherokee. I'm also running Rex 4 textures and EZCA2, which is kind of interesting because it is way better than the original EZCA, in my opinion. Other kind of issues I have with P3D V4 that I've discovered, the recording capability still isn't really there. I really miss FS Recorder from FSX. Another thing, the dynamic lighting is actually really cool, but it does have some issues of its own with frame rates and performance. Although I did discover that spinning around in spot view basically brought frames back to normal when using dynamic lighting. Now, one of the big things about 64-bit, outer memory errors are supposedly a thing of the past, but to be honest, it's not a huge thing for me because I never really had problems. Maybe because my system wasn't, super strong in the first place. I never really had out of memory errors in FSX or earlier versions of P3D, and I'm definitely not getting them right now. Here we are approaching Harvey Field, and actually I kind of chose this place to be my first video with V4, primarily because this is the closest add-on airport to my real-life house. It's about 10 kilometers away as a bird flies, so kind of just flying over my home turf, really. I'm sure you've seen a couple times in the video earlier. There were some sort of delayed texture loading. Even as we approach here, you can see the ground textures kind of sharpening up as I get real close. Although I will say the blurry issue isn't as bad, and I think maybe because I bumped up fiber frame time fraction. I'm not really sure, but it's working decently, although you can see some of it loading right as you approach it. Little bit of a rough landing there, but all's well that ends well. Well, as we taxi to the center of the airport, I hope you enjoyed what you saw. I do plan on uploading more content, and if you like what you saw and you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you out there.